Alrighty guys, so it's Wednesday afternoon and we'll get into our weekly trade session. Trade review, trade session. Rare, R-A-R-E, had a failed something. Good enough for a short here. On Rare, see the huge spike down to the bottom, chart pushed right back up. Think it'd be decent for a little short. Still have some volatility playing around, huh? UVXY, see it's starting to unwind a little bit after hours. And same thing with me, Mike Z. No, MK. I think JDST was gonna go up higher, and Noel and all of us we were thinking the same thing. The chart just coiled, but it's not doing what we would like it to do, right? So, anyways, this is your hour session. Bring me stuff. Tell me what you wanna talk about, and we'll go over it. This is your time. We'll keep it on rare in case anybody's short. Very, very, very low volume here right now on rare. You guys got any questions? Any charts that you want to bring up? Any swing trades that you're in? Swing trades that you're looking at? Any of the above. What's my thoughts on gold? Gold the chart or GC the entire thing? Gold itself. I'm looking at the daily chart and I see today we have some hesitation. That's why I was saying to you, if you're trading the futures, be a little careful today, because that gold chart should have been more up. There's no reason for it not to be more up. I think that they're hesitating here. I don't see why that chart is not at 260, 265, 1265. I don't see why it should not be there. And the hesitation at this point for me is a little alarming. But the entire sector, including the miners, have been doing a similar type of thing. Even though gold is up, it should be a lot more up, but it's not, and that has me a little bit hesitant on doing anything further with it. I'm gonna day trade JDST and I had Nugget, JNug, and I'm gonna day trade the miners. Because I still like trading the miners, right? There's nothing to me. Yeah, it should be at 1260. I don't see why it shouldn't. It should be at 1260. I see the chart has room to go if it wants to go. And as I said before, if the gold people wanted it higher, this is the chance to make it higher. And they should be pushing that chart up, and they're not. So I don't understand what's the hesitation. That's what I'm thinking. I think it hits the double top from about 2.6. There's a top in right about where it's at right now. I think it hits a head and shoulder and comes back down. It should be way up more than where it's at. It's hesitating too much. So I'm gonna stay on the charts. JDST will keep a side chart up here for as long as I need to. But I'm still gonna be biased. I can't say biased because I won't be. I'll be playing the charts as they come along. If there's an 813, you better bet I'll be playing that JDST on the long side, because gold should be higher. There's some reason that they're not bringing it up higher, and we'll find out. We'll find out either by making money or by losing some. PVH, EPS 123 versus 119, sales at 2.1 billion versus 2. Okay, so they both sides. So PVH is a long, but obviously this chart's gonna pull back some here. Even if it pushes a little bit more, I'd be short biased on it for the small pullback. But this is the first candle. So let's see if we can get this to push up a little bit more, maybe touch that $99, and then test it on the short for the profit takers. $99. So we already have two charts that we're looking at for tomorrow. We have rare and we have now PVH, and let's see, CTAS.
CTAS Cintas earnings per share coming in at $1.08.
CTS EPS
Ahead of
108 versus
expectations,
107,
sales
sales
coming in at
1.28
$1.28
in
billion,
line with
in line
estimates.
with
Okay, so
estimates.
CTAS
Looking
should
at
be an
the
upside move also.
CTAS Cintas.
Problem is that the chart's been up, had a huge spike, and any spike on this earnings on CTAS may be short-lived. Alrighty. So yeah, so now you took Jason, you took FTK on a swing today. You got the pin candle, and that's the most important thing for right now. You have the pin candle, that's what you want. The chart is back, you know, it's back relatively into trying to fill this gap. So let's look at it on the daily chart. Let's do a fib. See what kind of numbers we're dealing with. Okay. Got yourself an interesting area here, bud. You really do. And if the chart was to stay above this area here, I think you got yourself a nice inverted head and shoulder to be looking at. There. So I think you're in a good spot. It's between the the sector and the charts to hold you up there. You got yourself a nice fib retrace, and it's a nice pin candle. All the indicators are definitely oversold at this point. You got yourself a nice looking chart. Let's see if it can move off of that chart, right? Let's see the buyers into close. All right. So we have some buyers into the day and a big green candle into close. So we should try to see an upside continuation. If you get the upside continuation, Jason, then you're good to go to hold on to it. But if it gaps down, well, obviously, you have to be careful with it, right? So CTS, this is the one with the earnings beat. Chart should be up. Don't see why it's still hesitating here. Should not be an issue to be up. So that's your you said SWM before. Okay, but FTK is the chart. All right. So what else you guys got going on? Now, what did they do exactly at Flowtech? Jason? I mean, you're buying the chart. What do they do exactly? Or at least the sector. Fizz. I'm gonna take a look at Fizz. Ah, I got something for you on Fizz. Who asked me about Fizz earlier on? Somebody asked me about Fizz. Mike Z. Let's take a look at Fizz. Mike Z is still here? Alright. Forget the daily. The daily chart is gone. Way too much, right? Forget the daily. Let's do a fib on this piece of the daily, and then we'll go into something that I'm seeing. Projection wise, see it? Right there. $80.50. I say you try it there when it gets there. On Fizz. Let's do monthly. And that's the number. That's the number. That's the number. Look at that retrace and the projection and your target for your short on Fizz. I'll set an alert for that. I'll play that with you. I'll play that with you if we get that move. So we're looking somewhere about 80.50. I look at the general charts. I mean, on something like this, I want to see as much as I could. And so I do the daily, and I'll just throw it on a monthly because it's such a huge move, just to kind of trying to see if there's any relationship there. But like on my charts, when I'm looking at it, I got the daily, the weekly, and the monthly on the same chart. And so I'm able to see not just the small picture but the very big picture too. So I throw out daily, and I look more so at the weekly and the monthly on a huge chart like this. Sometimes you do the 3 or 5 on or daily when we play pre-market. 3 5. Sometimes I will do 3 5 or daily. You mean the 3 or 5 minute, or okay, okay. The big one. I go for the big on a chart like that, Mike Z. That's obviously eating up every other fib. I wouldn't. I'd be aggressive with it at the 80.50. I'd be aggressive with it. I would take that with you at $80.50. So you let me know when it's there. If anybody sees this chart fizz at 80.50, you let me know. I'll take it. My swing account is not that heavy right now. I'll take it. Remember when I did that huge fib move on Ren for that $47 short? And did it hit it? Yep. Did it go over it? A little bit. But did it come down off that range? It sure did. It sure did. I didn't end up holding it. I think it was can't remember why. I can't remember why. But I didn't end up holding it, but it sure as hell did. What about that MO? I know this was a recent one I was looking at. You see? I had this at $76, right? And it's still within short range, but you see how that number is still attacking the hell out of this chart? So it may be a while there. But
On BGNE, by Gene.
oh
earnings per
yeah.
share coming with a
Yeah.
loss of
Yeah, that's a
$1.05
power
versus
move.
about
That
16 cash
161.8,
equivalents.
that's
600,
powerful
excuse
for
me,
me.
368.1
That's basically saying
million
I've
coming
stretched
from
out all I
BGNE
could,
by
and
Gene.
that's what you need to test me on the short. And a chart that presents that for me is a must. Is a must. I kind of, I don't, me, like when I'm day trading, I do 50 when I'm day trading. Sometimes I may pull a little bit more and actually hit your 61 on the February trace or whatever, but I do 50 when I'm day trading. Like I look for a 50% pullback. Like even on that when I was eyeballing that ESPR move for you, right? On that one candle move on ESPR for the long today. I was basically just trying to, you know, eyeballing it. I know where the moving averages are. And for me, it was just more of a hey, let's pull back within that range. And if I fibbed that candle itself, let's see what kind of fibs we would have actually come out with on just the one candle. Just right to that 50. See the red line? Give me a sec. So that line, if I can blow it up enough for that you can see it, actually was about a perfect 50% off of this single candle. um, it's the third. I hold on. What numbers do you have on your fibs? Are they the same numbers that I'm looking at? When like these numbers? Okay, same numbers. So you're saying is the 50 on a retrace good enough for a projection of 150? Is that what you're asking? And if I'm doing a 61, is it good enough for a 161 sort of projection? Is that what you're asking? Yes. So anything over my red line here is a projection, yeah. Um, See, I'm confused by that. I know you probably know a lot more. $38 on the chart is over projection. Yes. I mean, that would be my target. You know, at this point, the fact that it's way over the projected move, but that projection is off of one candle, right? If we were to do the actual projection off of this move, where would it be? It's kind of hard to really address that. See, that projection at the 38 would be off of one candle, right? That's what you would be expecting to get off of this candle move. But if we were doing a projection off of, you see, this chart's really hard for you to figure out, okay, where was the pin and where was the, well, we know this is the low, this is the pullback, but which pin do we take it from? Here, here, you know, so it's a little difficult to project this entirety of the move. Oh yeah, I love using projections. I love using projections. If I'm doing a type of move where I'm feeling like, okay, well, I need to get something out of it. I kind of want to see, you know, it takes me what, half a second to see what I can get out of the chart, right? So I knew that, okay, this was a stop, so this was the projected area. At least I know I have two pivot areas, here and here. So where was the projected move? Right up to here. And where did I take off my last piece? On Tesla at 254.43. So I'm gonna delete this stuff. Right, this was the pivots I was playing into, right? One pivot to the other. So this is my high, this is my low, and this is my projected 161. And so where did I take off mine? Right at the projected target at 254.43 was my last sell on my Tesla, because I was playing for that projected pull. Noticed how it pulled back off the projected. It did. And if I had more time in the day, I would never sell this chart. I would never sell this chart. If I had more time in the day, I would not be selling this chart. But I don't want to overnight it because I don't know how the market's going to play out tomorrow. But that's a beautiful projective move though, right? So that's what I was playing into. That's what we ended up getting on the chart. And I think that worked out to be nice. Let's do even like win.
For your economic activity for tomorrow, we will have.
Let's do something like win from the top pivot to the bottom pivot, and notice where the 161 came into play. Right here. Where did I tell Willow to sell some? Right here.
This afternoon,
for 1 point.
Everyone a very pleasant evening. See you
where
in the
did
morning.
the chart pull back? Right there. And so, you know, these things do come into play a lot. They do come into play a lot. That's why for me with JDST, you know, I expected the chart to have such a better projected move, but it never, ever did what it needed to do. Never. If I fibbed that, a projected move would put me somewhere here, and that's what I really wanted to play. It never gave us that, so there was nothing there for me to do. Absolutely nothing there for me to do. Let's do ESPR and a downside projection. I mean, this chart probably just slapped around projections to the downside. Okay, so the chart there came down to here. But if I was doing this projection for the entire move, for the entire day, I would use the low here and the high here. And where's that projection double bounce? 161.8. Pretty much on the money. See that? Now isn't that interesting though? How much of things come into play when you're dealing with which projections, and it can obviously be to the downside or the upside. So this projection to the downside was from pre-market lows to the first pin, and then that's where my target was, down here. It's pretty nice, but you know, sometimes during the day you obviously a lot of things happen that don't play out like that. I can show you probably a lot of charts that fail projection moves, you know. So it's just like anything else. If you see a flag, are they all going to work? No. But you know, is it a good Is it a good thing to be looking at, to understand? Yeah, I think so. So what are we looking for in PVH as far as the target on that short? 99, right? Let's see if it gets up there. Let's see if it gets up there. I think one more push through that high should put you at 99 if the chart wanted to do that. Oh yeah. Well, I do, you know me, I do a lot of looking at the physical charts. Fibs for me is a not a last resort, but it's not my first go-to. Just like when I was showing Terry with his AMD today. Right, look at where that chart topped. Look at where the chart topped. Notice where Terry sold. Right into that circle. Right? Right into that circle. And so for me, that resistance was coming from that pin bar and that top came back into play. And that's exactly where Terry got his last sell of AMD. Right at the top. If we were to fib this move from this pivot to this pivot, it would be so untrue. Because it would show you that the chart still has room to go to the upside. So maybe tomorrow, this fib from today projects a move to tomorrow to $14.28. Let's circle that, and we'll come back to it tomorrow and see if it works. You almost shorted right there, and that would have been. I mean, look how the projections are coming into play, though. You know, the 127 right into that area, but I was using, that's why I always tell Eric, I said, I always tell Eric, I say, when your projection, your fibs, either your projections, your retracements, whatever, when they are in line with my charts, as far as where I'm technically seeing a chart resistance like I did here, and if Eric said, hey, I have a short area for AMD at 14.15 or whatever, then that would give me the double, okay, with not being long past that area until it breaks. And Terry actually got to capitalize right at the top. And that's why I always like to say, we are able to share so much stuff with each other here. I may be seeing something differently. Terry may be seeing something differently. Maybe Terry didn't even see that resistance, but he did, and he got to capitalize on it. So was I trying to get into his business? No, but I was maybe trying to show him something that maybe he wasn't seeing. Who knows? But it helps. Helps a lot. So Mike Z, you really focus on a lot more fibs. I totally see that. So that's your thing. So you obviously are very much into retracements, then you have to get into projections, right? If you're taking a chart for a certain reason, show yourself where you want to be. Try to get yourself, with the conviction to say, yes, I'm taking this chart here, and this is what I want to get out of it, right? And so your projected moves, should try to give you that extra, momentum that you would need to stay in as long as you could. Because if you can trust your fib, if you're telling me, hey Barry, I like to play this 50%, right, or whatever, 61%. As I said before, I just kind of average it out to 50%. Okay, when I started doing pullbacks, I didn't know about fibs. Okay, fibs for me is relatively new, and I'm saying relatively new being that when I started to do the my breakdown of my own strategy and how I learned stuff. I've told you guys a ton of times before that I never knew the words or the names for certain things. I never knew that a hammer was called a hammer. It could have been called a duck for all I care. It didn't really matter. I didn't know what an inverted head and shoulder was, the technical term for it. I didn't know what fibs were, the technical way to use it. I never used any stuff like that. I knew that when I saw a candle that looked like that it started to react differently. I knew that when I saw it at the bottom, it started to react differently. I know that when I saw a bearish engulfing, that's where I know it now. But I knew when I saw candles like that things started to react differently. as I told you guys before, I didn't even know there were videos on YouTube about day trading. But I learned most of the stuff the hardcore way, waking my wife up at 3 o'clock in the morning, telling her that I found a 200 SMA and it reacts greatly to charts. I never knew that there were, educational things about day trading. I really learned it, and I feel like sometimes, I gotta tell you, sometimes I feel like best it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I was never jaded by other people's strategies. I was never jaded by misinterpreting other people's ideas of fibs or charts or patterns or anything like that. I really, really, really learned most of this stuff, most of it, candles and all, by myself. Just looking at the charts. Like I literally used to look at charts and look at candles till my eyes fall out. And I to confirm ESPR you used 39. Let me take a look at it. And so when I started getting into the actual fib stuff, I didn't even know where to put the lines to draw fibs, honestly. I just knew that if I eyeballed a chart and I saw a pullback to what could have been halfway on the chart. When I used to say it, I used to never say 50%. I used to say, oh, let that thing just pull back halfway, and then take it. So it was never for me a technical thing. It was technical, sorry, but the wording was never for me. Um, you're looking at that and that. So I would do this projection here and that high there. So that's my wick there at the bottom, and that's my high peak there at the top. And that's the 161% there, projected short. And a projected short would also mean reversal long. Right, so you can play it a lot of different ways. You can do and I like to project, or I totally give you a little something about my interpretation of this stuff. I don't use anything from this side if I'm doing this day's move. I don't want to see yesterday's move, but I will include pre-market or after hours. Whatever this chart does today can be included for any sort of projected move or resistance or supports or anything for me. But as soon as today closes out, that no longer belongs to tomorrow. So it no longer affects tomorrow's numbers if I was to do some sort of a projected move. So in this chart here, I don't use anything from this side. That's why I took my number from here. It has to be today's low. You understand? Maybe something maybe something that you haven't noticed before, but I won't touch if yesterday's low was down here, like after hour lows, I wouldn't use yesterday's. Like yesterday's on AMD. AMD was just this: today's high, today's low, projected. But remember, for me, for AMD, I never went with fibs. Like I never went with fibs. I just did resistance on the technical part of it, right? But if we were to go back to yesterday's move, let's see yesterday's move. And obviously this would be included up to 1461 for me. To yesterday's lows, which was probably here. Wow. Look at that. The high low, 50% retrace. That high and after our low including only that day from here to here. So from pre-market to after hours, but that day would give you a projected 50% retrace on AMD. It would technically be a short for tomorrow if you were doing fibs. You see where I'm getting though? Like, even though that's not to the penny, I consider that 50%. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I consider that 50%. I don't do exact pennies on stuff, right? Like, if I say, so I may luck out and sometimes things may hit the exact same penny that I'm at, but if I want to short something at $98.50 and it's at $98.32, I'm okay with that, you know? So when I do a 50% retrace from here to here, which is yesterday's lows, just that one day, and I see this chart today pushed all the way back up to that red line, which is my 50%, I'm okay for a short tomorrow on AMD. That red line is going to stay on this chart because that red line has a lot of power to it. If the chart can go over this red line, it becomes a major support. Once it stays under, you can short the hell out of it. Then look backwards and see a totally different correlation with those two levels. I will mention on daily fibs, I will pull up old chart only to find a trade in around a fib level or extent. Yes, totally. I mean, you'll always see that. If I do, let's just take for example, we just run through some. Let's just run through some monthly charts and let's see where projections can actually get you into. By the way, this AMD long was a flag breakout here, posted right here in this room. All right, let's do some projected moves. Let's do this piece of the chart and see if it got affected by the fib. So I'm fibbing from here. I'm fibbing from here to here. Where's that 161? There. You notice how that chart came right up to that area and pulled back? Where did it pull back to? To retest. Now this is as technical as a trader as you can get. Here's your fib from here to here. Here's your projected move to here. Here's your short. Where did it pull back to? That red line. Retest the high of the breakout and then a push. Okay, now here's where it gets a little complicated, but I have to show you this. You always hear Eric and I talking about fib within fib. So where's your fib within fib? Here and here. Where's that projected high? Here. Where's the chart coming down from? Right there. So each projected move has to have some validation. So this projected move gave you a short here, pulled back to retest this high, and then this projected move from there to there, from this pivot to this pivot, gives you a projected move here for a short. Now we'll keep looking at projected moves. If we were to get a move from this pivot to this pivot, your projected move on AMD is going to come up to $17.50 here. So this would be your longer term projected move. Take care, Mike Z. But you can see on this chart alone how beautiful fibs worked. And that's nothing that I planned or anything, that's just how it worked. Now I can show you a lot of charts where it shreds fibs. Like this one. Right? It shreds fibs. Projected move. Here. You take it short, the chart flags and pushes on you. But what you always want to try to do is you want to try to use those projected move as your other area. So if I was to do a short, that's my projected short. From that pivot down to the low. Came back down to here, hit that 50%, and then started to come back down. I know it sounds a little complicated, but if you start to play around with your fibs, I mean everybody's charts should have fibs on it, fib retracements. And so a retracement, for those of you guys that are just super confused, if your chart goes like this, your retrace is the amount that it pulls back. Your fibs are going to put lines on this chart. So this from the top to the bottom is a 100% move. Okay? When it pulls back down, most of the time you want to see 50%. That's why I always say wait for it to pull back halfway back into that candle. Now this time frame could be a daily time frame. This could be over a 6 month period or whatever. This could be a 5 minute candle. This can be a 1 hour candle. This can be whatever candle you want to be, whatever candle you're trading. So you'd be looking for the entire move. When it starts reversing, when it pulls back to 50%, and usually I eyeball it, this is where you should find most of your support. And sometimes it goes a little bit less, which is at 61%, but don't get yourself too tied up in some of the numbers if you're new to Fib. So Fib retracements just kind of does this automatically. And so if I'm looking at this entire move here, and I want to do a Fib retrace, where should this chart come back down to? Well, I'm eyeballing this right now, and that's about where that's where 50% is, right? So that's 50-50. And so if this move here pulls back to here, that's about 50. That's a Fib. So I know that a lot of you guys are probably listening to this, if anybody's listening to this, if I'm talking to myself again. The Fib stuff may sound a little bit confusing to a lot of people that are new to it. If you're new to it and you don't understand what it means, you know, that's what we're here for, right? Noel, have a good one. And so basically when you see Eric doing Fibs, or you see me doing Fibs, you may think it's very confusing, and that's totally natural to feel very confused about something like that. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is, and the way that the way that these things align themselves are very, very, very confusing. Okay, and then when I get into it, or when Eric gets into it, with a Fib within a Fib within a Fib, I mean, it would get super confusing. You're listening to it, that's fine. That's why you're here though, right, Jason? Because you're not going to learn this somewhere else. Nobody's going to sit down with you after hours on a Wednesday afternoon and talk to you about Fibonacci retracements or projections. Nobody. You'll be paying for this somewhere else, or reading your eyes burn, or watching videos, and you still won't be able to actually ask somebody, hey, what the hell does that mean? And so that's why we're doing what we do. That's why we do what we do at ITA. So we're trying to actually teach you to figure something out. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit, Jason, since you're so clueless about it, which is good. Do you understand what the whole Fib thing is? You understand what the idea behind it is? And it's the simplicity of a pullback area, right? So in general speaking, and that's why if you do, let's do ESPR, and I show you one candle on ESPR that we did today. It was a 5-minute time frame, and I was trying to show the pullback off of that one candle. Now all I want you to focus on is that one single candle. So now Fibs can be any time frame, right? Any single time frame. If I put my Fib on here from the top and bring it down to the bottom of that same candle. Okay, we're not confused, right? From the top of the candle to the bottom of the candle. Just this one candle I'm dealing with. 5-minute time frame. Where is my entry? See the red line? Red line's 50%. My ideal entry on this 5-minute candle is 50% of the previous candle. That's my buy spot. If you notice where the red line and that wick actually connects is probably to the penny, where it pulled back to 50% of the previous candle for a long. Now that's just a 5-minute time frame. And why do we use it on that candle? Well, that was the breakout candle. Remember, that was the candle that broke the downtrend to the upside. And so once you've discovered where your initial entry is going to be, then you have to project where your price target is going to be. So if you're playing for a 5-minute candle off of this time frame, your projected exit is somewhere about $38 and let's say 25 cents, just to make sure you're not all the way up there. And so that would be your target. Off of this candle move, I want to get $38.25. And that would be your projected. So anything above the area that you're working with, because this is the only retrace we did was this candle, right? This is my 100% from here to here. Pulled back to 50% and I'm taking it long. I want to see the chart up here to $38.25. And that's where, if I'm taking this trade, this is where I want to sell. So this is the projection now. So anything over the 100% becomes a projection. Now these numbers are statistically worked out. These are the numbers that's why you see them on all your fibs. No matter which platform you use, you'll see these numbers. I use 50. There's other people that use 55 or whatever. 50, 100, 0, obviously. So this is my area from top to bottom, the entire time frame. And the projected moves are 161.8 and 127.2. These numbers here are calculated from these numbers here. So this is my fibbed area, and this is my projected targeted area. Now that's just a 5-minute time frame. Now if I was to do a fib on a 10-minute time frame, it reacts the same. It's just that if you're gonna fib something, you better stick with it. You know, whatever time frame you got into, for whatever reason you got into it, stick with it, because it's really gonna confuse you then. You can't, fib something on a 1-minute chart and then try to trade it on a 5-minute chart for a projection. It really won't give you the results that you want. So like if you're fibbing a daily chart, this chart is kind of hard to fib at this point. This doesn't have any continuation either. Tesla's not too bad. Let's see. On Tesla, if we were to fib from the high to the low, my projected move on Tesla would be here. According to this chart, if this is my top and this is my bottom of the day for today, my projected move is $258. That's why I was saying, with that $252.40 entry, if I had more time in the day, I would not be selling this Tesla chart, because I still believe that $258 is attainable. Not because of this projection, but just in general, I see some areas on the chart that I think can be very, very, very likely to get. You see where this resistance is? You see that pin, that top pin? There's a lot of areas on this chart that I feel is very, very attainable, and that's right where that 258 area is. So if I was sitting here with Eric and he's saying, hey, I think Tesla's got room to 258 because of my fib, and I'm seeing 258 on my resistance on a technical base, I'm saying, well, yeah, I'm good with that. Let's hold it to 258 then, because he'll give me the confidence on using his fibs and using his projections to tie in with my chart reading, and I'll be like, okay, well, we'll hold that, because your numbers and my numbers are kind of coming into the same range. The fib thing is gonna be complicated, okay, Jason? It's not really gonna be that simple. Took me a while to understand it and to get used to just jumping on and throwing some fibs on here and seeing where my projected moves are. It's gonna take time, like everything else. It's gonna take time, but I don't think you need to complicate the simplicity of your trading right now. How long have you been trading? This is the Jason session. How long have you been hard to know what to fib. Pivots, hard strong pivots, pivot points, reversal areas, strong reversal areas. So you're looking for a strong rejection pivot or a strong reversal pivot, but it's just pivot areas, and you're using it. Just okay, let's say sometimes, let's say your chart's doing one of these, okay, and you're trying to your entry is somewhere here, right? Wherever your entry is, I would fib this to this, my nearest my nearest area for a fib. So I would do an entry here, a projected move here, and that should give me somewhere about here for a target. So I would fib the nearest areas, the nearest pivot areas for my projected move. If I was looking at it on a daily time frame and it was the same thing, if this was last month and this is this month and this is my entry, then maybe in the next couple months I get up to here, for example. And so projected moves should be in respect to the time frame that you're using. So if you're day trading something and for whichever reason you're long on something, try to pick the pivot area that has the most to do with the chart at that time that you're dealing with it. So for example, the Tesla move, even when I did, get it, I can't even remember exactly where it was, but the last area the last area for the pivot was here to here, projected move here, and I sold at $254.43. So as far as for this projected move that I'm playing, I got my target. And so that's sometimes people say, well, they want the chart to go more. I feel like this chart can go more. There's not a problem for it to go more. I ran out of time. But sometimes, forcing a chart to do more than it should is a bad thing. That right there is a perfect area that the chart started to show top in, right where the pivot fib area hit. And so sometimes people want charts to go a little too far. We're not always dealing with parabolic moves. I wish we were. Well, we're not always dealing with stuff that's going to continue to move on forever, right? And we have to be able to, if you follow me over and over and over, as much as I keep saying to people that are long on something, if you're up a certain amount, 50 cents or whatever, I call that my paycheck. You got to pay yourself something, and that's your paycheck. Everything else that happens after that is just a bonus on your chart. It's just a bonus for your account. But the most important thing is that you have to be paying yourself repeatedly in order to be a successful, consistent day trader. There's some news on DRWI. DRWI wireless selects Dragonware Harmony enhanced mic MC for network upgrade. Well, that's fantastic. Let's see what we like about the chart other than that. Okay, it's a pig, we know that. Float on DRWI. Float on DRWI is 4.2 million. This could be something. Not a huge amount of volume, and I don't see the importance of this PR whatsoever. They've selected something else to use, which is fantastic for them. I don't see how it's gonna show us any sort of increased growth in money or anything. But it's a pig with some PR, and that's kind of all they need sometimes, honestly. So DRWI, keep an eye on it. I'm not interested. I won't take any. Besides which, I already have a small farm, and I try to keep it limited sometimes. So on and off for a couple years, and now it's something that you're definitely more into as far as trying to learn this for a career. Are you supposed to pull up or down on fib for short, vice versa long? With mine, if I do a fib here downwards, see, this is a fib, this is a pullback fib, right? So I'm doing a projection move, so it has to go higher, right? So I'm doing a pullback for a slingshot. So if I'm doing a long play, I pull down, and if I'm doing a short play, I'm looking for a push up for a short. So remember, it's always a slingshot effect, right? So it's a rubber band effect. So if I'm looking for a short, I want to hit the top, but I want an extended move to the downside. But if I'm looking for a long, right, I want the pullback for the rubber band move to the upside. So yeah, so when you're projecting, you obviously got to get the projection in the direction that you want. So if I'm projecting it to go lower, then I want it to go lower, and so then my projection has to be down. If I'm projecting it to go higher, obviously if I'm taking it long, I want it to go higher than the point, right? And that's also your add spot, by the way. Short, if you're short somewhere and you get that pivot and you get the fib and it starts to work, wherever it breaks, that's your add spot. So if you're short, if you do that fib from here to here, and that's your 50% line, and that's where you're taking it short, that's also your add, and that then you hit your projected move. So like I'll do, say this is my long position, wherever the chart came from, and it retraced this amount. I'll usually try to add here, and then I'll usually try to take off here, and then I hold my least amount is always at the top. I am never more than a quarter size at the top. Wherever my exit is, I'm never more than a quarter size. Even if I run it all the way up to wherever the hell it wants to go, I'll leave a lot of money on the table, but I take off money as the chart's working, because I make more money with the charts going all the way up there. But with the pressure that you put on yourself when a chart's going up like that, what happens is there's a point where you lose stability, and you start tightening up stops ridiculously. Every 2 cents, every 3 cents, you start doing crap like that, and that's not where you want to be. So in order to comfortably allow the charts to when you add here and you take off your first piece or whatever, as to comfortably allow the charts to do this, because charts never do that, to comfortably allow it to do that, you have to have a size that you can still manage. But if you're working with the chart and you're still holding full size all the way up to here, trying to maximize the gain as much as you could, your stops in between here are going to get shattered, because you'll be so nitpicking every penny's move that you're going to screw up your own self. You end up losing out on the trade. TC2000, they have a fib, retrace, and projection. Is that also used to project for long and retrace for short? I would assume I don't have TC2000, but Frank, are you on the group? Are you on the group me? If you are, I'm sure somebody there can probably help you out. So just post that in there. If somebody's using TC2000, if they can just shoot you some ideas with it. And remember, Eric's really good at it. I'm sure that if you're asking for, like Mike Zerk loves numbers, right? He's a numbers guy, and he's probably an accountant or something. But I'm not I'm not so much into the pinpoint numbers. I don't care if it's 50%, 53%, 48%. For me, that's 50%. I eyeball a lot of things, right? And so for me, it's okay. Well, forget about me not liking it that much. Somebody's obviously liking it a lot more than we are. For me, my fib areas and my even my projected areas, they're averaged numbers, right? Like 50% for me isn't 50%. 50% could be 48%, could be 53%. So 50% for me is an eyeball. It's a pullback. It's good enough. I'm long. I know what I'm doing with it, and it doesn't have to be an exact number. Sometimes if I'm trying to hit a target though, I'll be so determined on hitting that number that it may sometimes confuse me as a trader to take or to not take a position. Remember that TDG short the other day? Missed it by I don't know 9 cents or something, but I wouldn't chase it because that's the craziness inside of my head sometimes. That's the little parts of me that I want to just like smash with a hammer. Like 9 cents less, and I could have taken it, right? But I'm so determined on hitting that target. Like if ACIA didn't hit $58 today, I'd be upset because I called for $58. I really like to hit my targets, really do. And when my charts hit the targets, like even with IDXG, after that $3.25 on IDXG, I didn't care what it did. Honestly speaking, I didn't care what it did, but I needed to hit that target. The first time it popped up, and I don't know if it did hit the 325 on the first time. I don't know if that's an actual print or if that's just a fat fingerprint. But until I see that number, there's something about it that just doesn't work for me. Like I can't get over it. And it must be me just being a very determined person. What's going on with tops? TOPS. Don't know. Okay, let's see if there's anything there. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, as far as the fib stuff, I think it's just a matter of seeing it work more and more and more. But it's a strategy, just like every other strategy. It's gonna fail you. You know, charts are gonna blow through fibs. If you tried fibbing ESPR in a short the other day, you'd have gotten toasted. If you tried fibbing Ulta the other day on a short, you would have gotten toasted. Nothing held. Sometimes when you get in a shred chart to the downside, you try to bounce it off of a fib, it'll hurt you. Just like everything else. A flag sometimes don't work. A fib sometimes won't work. It's just like everything else. And so just make sure that you understand that if you are going to use the fibs, I think use it as an auxiliary to help you guide along where, hey, look, if I'm long something, where do I think I want to get out? And that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for those guidelines. But you use the charts to really generate the trade and to keep you in the trade as long as you can. But you use the fibs more as a guideline to say, well, hey, if it's pulling back a certain area, then yeah, I want to look at it. And if it's going up too high, or hey, let me just throw a fib on that and see if it's coming close up to that area. And then maybe you want to take off some of it, right? So use it as a guideline. Some people like Mike Z really wants to use it as his his go-to thing and his priority strategy, which is all good, as long as you really get into it at that point. Because if you're gonna use it, you gotta use it religiously, just like every other strategy. You have to be religious with it. If you're gonna say, well, I'll fib this, but I won't fib that, well, you'll fib yourself out of some trades, because you gotta be serious with it, right? So just like any other strategy, if you plan to use it, make sure that it's properly being used and religiously being used. So that's all the time that I have for today, but that's a nice little session. I do hope that some of it was valuable to you guys.